Welcome, this is Josh Reeves with Mile High Church in Lakewood, Colorado. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. For more information about our church, please visit our website, milehighchurch.org.
And now we're going to talk about curiosity, and you may kind of say to yourself, why are we talking about curiosity before a new year? Well, because I believe we need to. This year has seen in our world wars, rumors of wars, terrible weather crises, and then add on top of that, we had an interesting political season. And what happened because of that political season is many people walked away, and now they've found a foe instead of pulling ourselves together. And curiosity can help us with that, and that's what I hope this talk will help you with. And I always like to use this disclaimer. For those of you that have had any kind of severe trauma in your life, I see you, and I know that some of the things I'm going to share aren't easy for you, and that's okay. If you can take one nugget away, then it may help you move through all of your own issues. So we know, I believe that curiosity and wonder can soften all of us if we learn how to use it. In our readings for the month of December, the author from the guides actually talked one day about curiosity being our superpower. Have you ever thought about that? That as human beings, curiosity can be our superpower. So we're going to spend some time this morning thinking about that. And Josh shared I love the curiouser and curiouser quote, but Josh shared that quote from Albert Einstein, but there's a very short quote that Dr. Einstein said that I think speaks very much to his belief. He said that he wasn't talented. He said, I am just passionately curious. Now, the rest of us would probably say, wow, I think he was pretty talented. But I love that he reflected back to say it wasn't anything special about him. He just knew how to use his curiosity. Carl Sagan, who is another scientist, he was an astronomer and a planetary scientist, had a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm going to split it in half. And the first thing he said was that kindergartners are really science enthusiasts. They are curious. Any of you that have children know that. They ask the questions like, why is the moon round? Why is the grass green? What's the birthday of the earth? Just to name a few. Now, what I want to share with you is that triggered something in me as I saw that quote and knew I was going to use it because it's so true. I thought about my own experience as a kindergartner. Now, you might say, how did you remember that? It was such a significant part of my life that it has stayed with me all this time. I went to the Little Red Schoolhouse at 5 or 6 years old, and in that little preschool program that they had, I had marvelous teachers. Those teachers would teach us things like Tchaikovsky's Peter and the Wolf. Now, you're 5 years old. But they would send us out into the side yard because this was a very large piece of property they had to reenact what we thought that whole song of Peter and the Wolf was about. Then they taught us about Three Kings Day, which we now know as Epiphany. And they taught us about cultural things like the maypole dance. And here's a picture I found of me as a kindergartner and the maypole dance. And what's so profound to me about it, and it's the reason it has stayed with me, is they really sparked my curiosity. They wanted me and everyone in my class to continue to ask the questions. Why? Why is that person different? Why? Why is it so hot outside? They didn't want us to stop being curious. So I love that. And the rest of Sagan's quote says, then we hit 12th grade. And we become incurious. And he even said leaden. And that was in the 1970s. So what about now? And what I love about thinking about that is that isn't true for everyone. We all know someone that was definitely not true of. Ernest Holmes. When he was a young teenager, he actually was known as the eternal question mark because he questioned everything. And he has a quote that says, "From the beginning, I was a nonconformist. Asking so many questions, I drove my relatives crazy." So it doesn't have to stop. It's in you. It's in us. It's that superpower that is within us. It's not external to us. It is within us. But what happens to most of us when our curiosity diminishes? I do believe it's outside influences. Some of them are natural causes. One for me was sticking a pencil in an electrical outlet and getting a shock. I was curious, but that was the last time I was curious about that particular action. And all of us have those experiences. We get stung by bees, we get bitten, we fall out of a tree and break our arm, and then we have parents who caution us when we're curious. They don't want us to get hurt. They really don't want us to fall out of the tree, but caution. And what can happen is we can become so cautious that we lose our ability or our interest in being curious. So let me ask a question of you. How often do you get defensive instead of curious? Ever? I hear a few laughs. I do. Many of us do. We're not interested in being curious. We're interested in winning. Or we're not interested in the truth. We're interested in maintaining our belief system. And we're going to talk this morning somewhat about how we can work towards changing that in ourselves. As I was putting this talk together, I found a book called Seek, and it's How Curiosity Can Transform Your Life and Change the World by Scott Shigeoka, who is part of the Greater Good organization in Berkeley. You remember someone else who came from there, and that was Awe. And his whole emphasis is curiosity. And he took a whole year off in his life to travel across the country to practice curiosity. He is part of the LGBTQ plus community. And one of the things that he did was he would go to some of the political rallies for the person that he was not supporting, just to talk to the people, to understand why they believed what they believed. He didn't go there to change their mind. He went there to have a conversation, to practice his curiosity. Then he came back and he wrote this book. So he obviously learned a lot. So I want to share with you, before I get into the points of my talk, his feelings or his understanding of curiosity. He said curiosity is like you have doors in front of you. And the first thing is incuriosity, I-N, curiosity, the lack of curiosity. That's when you act as though the door isn't even there. You have no interest in being curious. The next one is shallow curiosity, and most of us have practiced shallow curiosity. You know, you go to a party where you don't know a lot of the people in the room, and you say, "Hi, I'm Jackie. What's your name? What do you do for a living? Where do you live?" That's shallow. There's nothing wrong with it, but what happens is it's like going to the door, looking through the peephole, but not getting invested in the group. That's shallow. And he mentions another one that's, to me, disturbing, but I have seen this happen, and it's part of shallow curiosity, and he calls it predatory curiosity. Predatory curiosity is when you think or say to yourself, "I want to change you." So you go to the door, you turn the knob, you walk in, but you have ulterior motives for what you're going to do once you get into that room. And then you have deep curiosity. When you have deep curiosity, you walk to the door, you turn the knob, you walk in, and you know it's not going to be comfortable, but you're okay because you know that you're going to come away from walking through that door with something much bigger than you had when you walked in to the door. So we're going to talk about how we can get to deep curiosity, but first I want to talk to you about some points that I think are important for how we can be more curious. The first one is see no stranger. That comes from the work of Valerie Kaur, and actually that is a primary part of the Sikh faith, is they see no stranger. That's the whole point of the langar, is everyone sits down. There is no class. Everyone sits down and has a meal. See no stranger. Valerie Kaur's first work that she wrote was in 2021, and I was introduced to her when we were all locked away, if you remember, during the pandemic. She put on several webinars, and I participated in 2 of them, and she's a young woman who her life experience and her Sikh religion have so influenced how she responds to life. She started the Revolutionary Love Project because what she realized is after 9/11 and seeing so many of the Sikh men being killed for being different, she took it upon herself to say, we've got to change. So she took that see no stranger, and she really has profoundly changed many lives with what she has taught. She's come out with a second book that just came out in 2024, which talks about the ancestors of the Sikh, and it's called Sage Warrior. It's a great book, but I want to share a quote with you from that book. We are born seeing no stranger. The moment we land in someone's arms, we don't care about the color of their skin, the language they speak, the status they hold, or even their gender. The only thing that matters is whether the body loves us back. Am I warm? Am I fed? Am I held? We are born thirsting for love. Ernest Holmes also speaks to this in a slightly different way when he says, when the natural joy of life is unblocked, it will flow freely through us, and we shall become whole and happy. But doubt, fear, uncertainty, anxiety, and a sense of insecurity can so congest our mental life that nothing good can get through. Listening to wisdom from within us should be part of our self-care practice. Valerie talks about the wise woman that speaks to her. Could be the wise man, the wise other, whatever it might be, but it's always speaking to us. You know, our culture's filled with a lot of noise, would you agree? And so this practice of becoming curious can slow down the noise and the anxiety that we feel. There is another piece of the Sikh tradition that I love, and I would call it an affirmation that they have, and it says, you, when they see someone different or someone they don't know, you are a part of me I do not yet know. You are a part of me I do not yet know. Wouldn't that change the world? Don't believe that because you're one person, you can't make a change. What you do in your life impacts the people around you. Those people then go out, and it's a ripple effect. We are naive to believe we have no power. And curiosity really should become our superpower. The second point I want to make is on oneness. That is the first principle of science of mind, oneness. Do you believe in oneness? Do you understand oneness? That is also a principle of the Sikh tradition, is oneness. And you can see how all of that is tied together. Seeing no stranger. You are a part of me I don't yet know. And now we talk about oneness. I'm teaching the Advanced Consciousness Studies class, which used to be called Prac 1. We changed the name in part because we wanted to make it more accessible to people who maybe didn't want to go into practitioner training but wanted to increase their consciousness. And in the first term of that class, something came up about perspective taking, which is another way of saying curiosity. It refers to the active contemplation of others' psychological experiences. That is, thinking and imagining the feelings and viewpoints of others, helping they to become me. We teach this in Science of Mind. I want to tell you, if you have not taken a class, in January we start our classes up again. I really encourage you, if you haven't taken a class, to get into Beyond Limits. That's the starting, and it will change your life. I had someone at the 8 o'clock say to me, as we were talking about curiosity, guess why they came to Mile High Church? They were curious. All of us walk through life curious. Let's take advantage of it. And as I said, please get into a class. You will not be sorry. Ernest Holmes said, identify yourself with that one in everyone you meet. Know that everyone you meet is just a little different expression of that one. And meet them as that one, and you will meet yourself in that one. That is oneness. This oneness can really also heal hatred. You know, I said we can make a difference. In 2012, you may remember the Oak Creek Gurdwara, that a white supremacist went in, shot and killed 6 members of that community. And one of the people that was killed was the father of Pardeep Kalika. And he was really concerned because he wanted to understand how. And we sit there every time we hear this happen. How could someone do this? So he reached out to Arno Michaelis, who is the person that actually had started this white supremacist group in Wisconsin, but since had left them because in his own heart he knew that wasn't right. But at this point, Pardeep is not sure that that's happened, but they get together, they go to have a meal at a Thai restaurant together to get to know each other, and then they have become, over the years, great friends. And they've started a program that is called Serve to Unite. And the intention of that is to work with students who, in schools, and I'm just laughing, one thing you love about schools and other community organizations, to try to get rid of this whole notion of othering, of the darkness that comes, but to try to give them some kind of basis for being able to have a better life and to take that better life out into the world. Pardeep says, I think that's the way that we need to go together as we move forward in America. We all need to help each other work our way out of this pain. That's going to take genuine relationships. And the last is to practice deepening your curiosity. So we've talked about see no stranger. We've talked about oneness, and now I want to give you some thoughts for how you can practice to get that deepening curiosity. Get away from the superficial. First, apply a beginner's mind. Open yourself up. Look for new and novel ways of doing things. See no stranger. Then ask questions and observe. Seek first to understand, not to explain. Again, is the truth more important to you or your own beliefs? Listen longer. Have you noticed that if you listen longer, you hear more? Rather than when someone speaks and you jump right in there to give them the counterpoint. Listen longer. Interrupt your own biases and othering when you listen longer. When you're practicing curiosity, you're turning toward another rather than away from. Then here, I think, is an easy one. Try something new. Take a different route to work. See what it does? It shifts your brain. Try reading a different genre of book. If you've always read fiction, try reading nonfiction. Try reading autobiographies. Go to an art gallery or a museum that has some kind of presentation that you say, what is that about? Go and see it. It can change your own mind. Because what it will do is start opening your mind to new points of view, and that's what curiosity is intended to do. Open your mind to new ways of seeing. And then be inquisitive. Be bold enough to ask other people's opinions and then listen to their opinions. Understand that every person in this room does things a little bit differently, and that's okay. That's what makes us a beautiful body for God to be able to enjoy, for that power that's greater than all of us to be able to say, I am thrilled with what I'm seeing from these humans. Don't get stuck with other people's biases. Ernest Holmes says this, practically the whole human race is hypnotized because it thinks what somebody else told it to think. Is that not interesting? Because it does appear that that's how we function in the world. By choosing curiosity in every moment, even those routine moments, you can make a difference. It can be different in this world. One person at a time can change this world, and you're the person that it needs to start with. Curiosity is about seeking what unites us, not what tears us apart. So what I'm going to suggest is for all of us in 2025, we put on our cloaks of curiosity, because that is our superpower. Think of yourself putting on your cloak of curiosity and then stepping out the door and using that superpower. Remember to see no stranger. Remember to embrace oneness. And practice, practice, practice deepening your curiosity. And never lose your holy curiosity. And so it is. And now as we go into prayer, I ask our practitioners to stand, holding consciousness for all of us. We know in this space right now, God is all there is, that God is the infinite, the all-seeing, the all-knowing, the powerful. And all of that is available to each one of us in this room right now. And as we become curious about that power that is greater than any one of us, we move forward in life. Happy because of our curiosity as well as our love that is shining through this curiosity. I am so thankful for each person who is here, each person who is online, knowing that as we step into 2025, we try new things, we experience that curiosity. Because we know that is what will change us, and that is what will change our world. As we step into times that are difficult or times that we don't know what to expect, curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. We don't have to know the answer. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for always being a part of us and showing up, helping us to show up in this world. So I can release this prayer right now into that law that says yes to what we believe. So I can let this prayer go, let it be, and so it is. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.